All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the CAIN Stevens Super Show. This is CAIN Stevens, your super host with the most, and I have a super guest with me today. Um, I almost said paranormal super show because I used to do the paranormal show, and now it's like I do this show, but I just talk about a bunch of paranormal stuff. So it's confusing to people at times, but it's not all paranormal, and this particular episode is going to be proof of it. I have someone who I respect. Someone who is an up and coming musician in the local area of Lincoln, and I think the world, and super talented guy. We have none other than Noah Trumble, everybody from Pearl Parade. So, I'll add canned clapter and all that stuff. Clapter.
Too kind, too kind. Thank you for having me on here, man. I've been looking forward to this all week. Like
This is
seriously.
awesome, man. I'm so excited to have you here. We're just gonna blast off into how the heck you even know me, right? I mean, we don't know each other personally, but we kind of have a personal connection here, don't we? Because we
Yeah.
reach this full circle moment where your dad and even your mom, to some level, I knew your mom in high school as well, but
Mm,
I knew your parents, and I was like good friends with your dad, like growing
yeah.
up. Like not only just good friends, but like your dad introduced me to some of like my favorite bands, which is hilarious, right? Like
Yeah.
Deftones, for example. Like Deftones are like one of my favorite bands of all time.
He introduced you to Deftones?
He did. He was
He
like,
never talks to me about Deftones.
I would love
What
to
the
be the one
heck?
to take credit for that. You know what I mean? Like, man, I knew Deftones before everybody, but no, man, your dad was that. He introduced me to the band Cake. You know,
Nah.
and it was just like, yeah, we used to listen to Never There. That song,
Ha.
and it was just like, man, your dad was a cool dude, man. I have to say, I was sad. Not because I didn't like your mom. I always liked your mom, but we
Yeah.
were all part of like a clique, a group. But it was like, man, once he got in with her, it was like then all of a sudden, he doesn't
Oh
have
yeah.
for us and all
Yeah. No,
this.
my mom is his world. Like
Yeah.
there's no and it stays that way till to this day.
It should be
There,
that
yeah.
way though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, our significant others should be our world. So,
Yeah. And
I
I
mean,
think
no, go
it's
ahead.
crazy because like I remember you're in some of our photos that we have in our house, like old photos of my dad. Like you're in
Oh
the
no!
photos.
Hopefully, I'm the guy they're blocking out, or like someone's like shoving me aside, like get it, like the
There,
photo bomber.
there's a good photo of you guys on the couch.
Right
And it's
on.
like when my dad had the middle part with like the frosted tips and like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's one of my favorite photos ever. Just because it like I when I love seeing my dad smile. He has such
Hmm.
like a great smile, like an infectious smile, and
Yeah.
he's a very stoic man sometimes. So
Yeah.
like sometimes you don't get that, but when something makes him laugh, or like when he's comfortable, like in our house, it's really like one space he's really comfortable in, as it should be. But like when he does smile, it just like lights up a room. And like in that photo, I see nothing but like a genuine smile within all of you, and like it's weird. It like waves over a sense of nostalgia for me, even though I wasn't even a thought during that
Yeah.
time. It just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
so strange.
Well, and it was like we were young and had like hopes and dreams and all that stuff probably in that picture, and it
Mm.
probably is a cool picture. I can't really. Your dad always has kind of been stoic. I mean, I'm sure I was the crazy one in the group, one of, and so I'm sure I made him laugh at times, but I can't really think of like maybe I never like made him gut bust laugh, but I've always been pretty good at that with people. But your dad's a hard one to crack, you know what I mean? So you really got to
He
get him when
is.
you get him.
Yeah, I do this thing, and like I know he notices it too. I was just thinking about this, where like when I'm like watching something comedic, I
Yeah,
like look over to him subconsciously for approval that it's
right,
funny. Not like
right.
not it's not even a joke I made. It's like something I'm laughing at the TV, and I kind of
Yeah.
glance at him for a little bit. And I know he knows I do
It's
it.
like funnier, right? It's funnier if he's laughing because it's like, oh yeah,
Exactly.
like they got him, so of course it's
Yes.
funny. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. There's been a few times like I get my humor from him because it's the most obscure, stupid things you've ever seen, like mostly
yeah,
Will Ferrell movies. And like he just like starts like gut busting laughing. And like then everyone who's watching the movie laughs. Because when
yeah.
dad like gut bust laugh, that it's like the most hilarious thing ever. So
Man,
yeah.
this is so awesome, dude. You have no idea how much I've looked forward to this particular interview. Like I've had different iterations of this podcast, and this is a new iteration of it.
Mm,
And I'm building an audience through this one now. But it's like I just love this type of thing more. Like I could have brought
yeah.
you on, and we could talk about ghosts all day, and trust me, I would love to.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll even ask you if you know what you believe in ghosts.
Oh,
But
please do. That'll come
let-
later, but please
yeah,
do.
let's talk about your band, man, because I've checked
Yeah.
out like the videos and I've checked out all you guys' music on streaming and everything. So your band Pearl Parade.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about it. Like, how did you guys become a band? Who are you? Who are you guys? Who are you guys like? Do you think? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so this is one thing I don't usually like to think back on, like the solo music I made like back in my high school days
Mhm.
because I don't know, I don't really like to think about high school too much. You
Yeah,
know, like it wasn't my favorite. And like
yeah,
the person I wasn't my favorite iteration of who I have been in my life. So
yeah.
I don't like to think about it that much. But the one thing I do always owe my solo music discography to is the band, because I remember I got like this opportunity to play. There's like a group of kids from East High School that were like a grade above me that were doing this outdoor music festival called Checkerfest.
Right.
Um, and they wanted me to play as Noah Trumble. And so I was in jazz bands. I think it was like junior year at the time. And my drummer, Aiden Klein, was the drummer in jazz bands in my high school jazz band. And he's incredible. Like the dude
Yeah.
is a machine. So I was like, I need to get him on. So I remember it was like after some rehearsal for jazz band, and I just asked him while we were walking to the next class if he would be in this band, and he was like, yeah, I could totally do it. And we practiced in this tiny basement, and the band I sort of put together with a few other musicians kind of fell apart, like they kind of just dropped out.
Yeah.
But Aiden was the one that stayed, and Aiden was like, well, if you need a new guitarist, there's this guy who graduated with my sister, Kaylee.
Hmm.
So about like he's 21, 2 years above me, and they played in floor bands like during basketball games together.
Yeah.
And that's where Johnny Spawn, Pearl Parade's guitarist, came into the scene.
Right on.
He was in the band, and then when we had like a makeshift band, and I remember the weather canceled the one day I could do the festival, so I had to drop out. But I was like, damn, that was like a really I felt a connection with specifically Aiden and Johnny with creating and harnessing that environment. So it was a couple like months later, beginning of my senior year, Aiden had graduated. Um, and I sort of just reached out to Johnny and Aiden, being like, I feel like we should make a band, because I was kind of done making music by myself. I wanted other people to, harness that creativity with,
Yeah.
and and yeah, they were totally on it, and we were trying to figure out a bassist, and they were like, oh, in floor band, our bassist was this guy named Zach Reese, who also graduated with Johnny and my sister. And so we got in. He was stoked. He wanted to play in a band. I think he had been out of the live music scene for a little bit and wanted to get back in. So he was like, this is my opportunity. And that
Right.
was it. It was just like, it was flowing from there. We started just kind of rehearsing and writing immediately. Like that's what I specifically remember, was you're writing original music like immediately.
Mhm.
um and then we had our first gig in February, and like those first few months were kind of spotty because I was super busy, so we were kind of like in and out. And we had
Yeah.
our first gig in February, and then we were like, let's make an album, because why not, we can do
Yeah.
it.
Why not? Right.
Yeah. So we just recorded it like throughout that summer of 2022. Um, and yeah, we released it, and people really liked what we were doing. And so now we've just been like plowing through live gigs every month. And this past weekend, we just recorded at a Rainbow Studios up in Omaha for the second LP.
Perfect.
Uh, all the tracks have their bodies, they're living, breathing organisms. We just got to dress them now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been just like, when people say uphill, it makes no sense to me, because like that's harder. So
Yeah.
like when I say downhill, that means it's easier. So like ever since we started, it just kind of rolled, and it just kind of came naturally, because I think um we all came from similar backgrounds. Zach and Johnny were also in jazz band when they were in high school. We all went to the same high school, North Star High School,
Right
all
on.
taught by Rob Salestein, our jazz band instructor. So we all really had this same like drive and passion for music, but also had this similar experience and background with it. So
Yeah.
I think we all just kind of had this like connection right off the bat. And now, what's been like I don't want to do the math, but as of November of this year, it'll be 2 years as a
Yeah.
band, and these guys are my best friends. Like I can
And
say that, yeah, full
that is so
confidence.
awesome. I mean, you're finding you're doing things that a lot of people your age don't. I mean, talk about the trudge uphill, for example. All of us musicians go through it. I went through it. I'll give you a quick story, because you guys are playing in bars and stuff now, um, I played a gig with a cover band in Ashland, and I didn't have strap locks on my guitar. And if you don't know what strap locks are and you're a guitar player, you should probably learn really fast. So I'm the lead singer and the rhythm player, and I'm playing. People are, grooving to it, having a good time. And I'll be damned if, if my guitar doesn't fall straight forward off of me and straight down. You know what I mean? Like bong. And I
Yeah.
mean, like I wanted to die in that moment, or maybe like hope my whole body imploded and I just disappeared. And so I had no choice but to look up at the crowd and say, apparently we're experiencing technical difficulties. It's a moment, So then I have to like pick it up, put it back on. I have to, retune and all that. But man, I wanted to like quit music at that time. Like it was like horrifying. When it's already hard, like lead singers. For some of us, like maybe you're like me, I'm like I'm like anxiety ridden and a mess when I'm not, but like when I get on stage, I become something different. It's like I transcend into a different mindset and world. And I'll bet you're probably you may be the same way. And I'm no longer terrified of people, but that type of thing is part of the trudge uphill. But you guys have a good trajectory to you, man. I mean, you guys are playing at you're playing at the keg, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of our home base at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome, man.
Mhm.
We used to open for some bands there. We used to play a lot there years ago. I had some heart complications a few years ago, so I went to just being a recording artist and producer,
Mm.
just because I just can't do it anymore. But man, you guys are really killing it. And I don't want to take away from your solo work. I'd love to talk to your other members of the band, but I want people to know what you're doing currently.
Mhm.
You also have great solo music. I mean, that's where I saw you. Your album, I believe it was Projections, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I actually had contacted you guys because there was a song that I was like, I was just blown away. It was just my style of song.
Uh-huh.
It was Delford Street, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it
I
just had a
remember,
great
yeah.
groove to it. Yeah. And I liked it so much. I was playing guitar while I was listening to it. And I was like, man, this chord progression is just so fun. So I was like, I have to at least ask Tristan, your dad,
Yeah.
and Noah if I could use that for like for a riff, So like
Mm.
someday if you get famous or whatever, you choose not to like sue me for using.
No, I can't. You know why I can't see you for that? Here's a little tidbit.
Yeah.
That's not even my chord progression. That's a
What?
sample from
Yeah.
someone playing it somewhere. So like, dude, if you did
Dude.
that, I'm not the person. But that's what I told my dad. I was like, I don't know if I'm the person to ask. I
Yeah.
was like, because I don't. I did the same thing that he's doing, even less because
Yeah.
I wasn't playing the guitar. I literally
We
got a
all
sample.
do that, don't we? I mean, music's just borrowing certain aspects of
Oh
chord
yeah,
progressions. I mean, haven't we all played, every Beatles chord progression that there ever is? And
yeah,
it's like, as long as we're not like pretending that we wrote, the Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band album
yeah.
or something, I think they're probably cool with it. They've got enough money.
Yeah, every
Um,
time, because it is the thing when we write in the band and we're like, we jam, and I was like, oh, that was really, really good. Is that yours? And Johnny was
yeah,
like, yeah, but like, it was also kind of this, and I kind of had to be like, guys, music is just stealing things from everyone,
it is.
and we should stop throwing a negative connotation on it because that's kind of the beauty of the community is that we're all
Right.
feeding off of one another and building. And also sidetrack, it's funny that you said the strap locks because I don't have strap locks on my guitar, and
Oh, yeah.
Johnny gives me so much crap for that.
You got to get them, man.
So
You
much.
got to,
It's especially with how I play guitar,
yeah,
since I have to have the strap connected to the tuning head all the
yeah,
way to the end because I play guitar weird. So
yeah.
like yeah, I probably should. And Johnny lends me them a few times, but as of now, my Jazz Master does not have those.
I
So
play guitar kind of like high, like some people like
mm,
it low down, like the bassist from Corn, like he's basically playing it off the floor.
oh
I
yeah.
like to hold it high because I feel like I have more control.
Mm,
And I like to move around a lot because if you're a showman and you're up there in front, people are watching you the whole time. So
yeah.
Grant, you get those strap locks, man. I was I have a good friend who owns Roots Music Shop here in town. Do you ever go there?
I just went there to set up my
Oh
jazz
yeah,
master,
you got it,
literally.
man.
And
Get
Johnny
all your
works
gear
there.
from there. Tell Ryan that
That's
Kane
who did
sent
it.
you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Johnny works there for a
Oh,
very long
Johnny
time
works
too.
there.
Yeah,
Right on.
Johnny worked there for a very long time.
Hmm.
Um, he even won his wah pedal because they had like a voodoo child contest to who could play
Yeah.
the riff better, and he
Yeah, I
won.
remember. I remember watching it, man. That
Yeah.
was a fun contest.
So yeah, that was him, and then that's how he has his wah pedal that he still plays voodoo child to at gigs to this day on. So
That's awesome, man. He seems like a solid guitar player. He really does.
oh,
Like, yeah, super good, man. Better than a
dude,
lot of guitar players I played with as that were adults who played their whole lives, bro.
I cannot tell you how much I adore Jonathan Spawn. Like
Yeah,
seriously, he is out of this world. Every single one of my guys, like they're out of
yeah.
this world. Aiden's just a machine, and Johnny just has this like incredibly smart, otherworldly sense of melodic playing, and
Hmm.
just understanding of theory. And not only that, but he gets excited about it. And Zach is always just like so down for anything and
Yeah.
just holds down, and tempo is in his blood. And when him and Aiden lock, it's over. Like it's just like the entire rehearsal is just like it goes by in a flash because we're having so much fun. But seriously, I could gush about those guys all day, but they would hate that if I did that. So
Well, I'm so jealous of you jazz guys who could, like I was given the choice when I was in school I was also a big jock, I played football, I was good at it. So
mm.
my parents gave me the choice, like you can either do band or you can do football. And I'm like, like what am I really gonna get girls with? And at least, I'm already
Yeah,
kind of a loser, I'm like, I think I'll play football. I was a big
those
kid.
90s archetypes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of went with that, but I also gravitated towards the musicians. But I wished I was in like jazz band because like I watch like the progressions you guys use and all that. And it's just, man, it's so calculated where I had to grind through it and learn on my own. Like I learned to grunge. We came in, like me and your parents, an amazing time in music.
Oh
And so I
yeah.
learned to sludge through it as soon as I saw Kurt Cobain and all these guys.
Hmm.
I was just like enamored with guitar. And so that's kind of how I learned to try. And then of course I polished myself over the years
Yeah.
playing and fumbling around really badly for years.
Yeah. But
And that's how it goes.
yeah.
But you guys know it all, man. You guys have all the all the good tricks that the rest of us want.
I connect with you though on that matter, guitar specifically, because I don't know how to read music. I
Yeah,
don't understand music theory at all. Whenever Johnny talks about that, like I'm like no clue.
yeah.
And
You're like,
whenever like
okay,
Zach is yeah, whenever I write something and Zach is asking for the chords, I like look at Johnny and I'm like, what are the chords? I don't know what these are.
yeah,
Like piano, I know how to read chord symbols. Because
yeah,
like what if you're a jazz pianist, because I was a piano, like that's some one thing you do have to learn. And that's
yeah,
just how I survived. I would get these lead sheets and I would just kind of ignore them and just look at the at the lead sheets and the chord symbols. And so when I started guitar, it was like during the lockdown because my
yeah.
birthday 16th was like when it started here in Lincoln.
Oh no,
Yeah, so like my 16th, yeah, it was crazy. And so I was like, oh, I should teach myself how to learn guitar because like an ex that I had just recently broken up with,
hmm,
she was super into guitar. And I remember this one thing she said to me where she was like, don't you ever learn guitar, because if you get better at me than guitar, I'll hate you. And for some
right,
reason that like drove me to learn guitar. Like
yeah,
for some reason. So it's like, yeah, I was like, I'll learn guitar. And then I just fell in love with it. And I'm left-handed, but we only had a right-handed guitar. So that's how I taught myself. And that's how I play to this day, is like Jimi Hendrix makes all
right.
the old men at the bars go crazy when they
Oh
see me play
yeah,
like that. Yeah. So like that's how I learned too, is and I learned the stuff I write, very like suspended chords, very grunge-esque, like new wave of 90s. Like that's where I usually write stuff on guitar.
absolutely.
And like
You
my
guys kind of have like a smell, I didn't even think about it, but you guys kind of have a
yeah,
Smashing Pumpkins vibe.
I see the infinite sadness
Yeah,
shirt.
dude. And
Yeah,
that's my favorite band, like and I saw them live in Omaha and that where they
oh
played everything. And it
dude,
was like, it was their reunion tour, but
it's
it was
so
like they
sick.
didn't just play a couple things. I mean, they played everything you'd ever want to hear from every album.
That's
And then you
sick.
really figure out that Billy Corgan really is the
He
guy who's ripping
is.
on guitar, the guy who does everything. And you
Yeah.
start to like this is why I'm a huge fan of them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
not just that moment, but it was so unbelievable. I would if you weren't there, man, I wish you could have been there because it
dude,
was an
that sounds
unbelievable show.
so sick. I'm literally so envious. Well,
It
because
was
like
nuts.
it's interesting because I think back on the music that my dad used to listen to.
Right.
And when I was a kid, I didn't like it. I liked my
Yeah.
mom's music, which is super pop, like AB, super like,
Right.
what sells.
Yeah, of
And
course.
as I got older, it slowly started to morph into like a carbon copy of my dad's music taste. And like now we're sending songs back and forth that I'm like referring to him and he's referring to me. And like my favorite bands right now are Smashing Pumpkins, Foo Fighters,
Yeah.
especially with their new record they just released.
Yeah,
But here
so
we
good,
are. It's
man. So good.
fantastic. Show
Yeah,
Me
it
How
is.
is a masterpiece. And Blink 182, since they're going on their like reunion tour and stuff like that, and Matchbox 20, Vertical Horizons is like a really deep cut for some people. My mom and dad
Oh, it's
listen to
super
it
good, man.
heavy.
There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
Vertical Horizons. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And so that's me now. And Red Hot Chili Peppers too, like just that 90s. And
Yeah.
again, to answer your question with our sound, I would say personally, don't know how the other guys feel. And
Yeah.
you
I hate to
mentioned
put you
that,
guys in a box because no band really wants to put themselves
yeah.
in that.
And you mentioned that you want to interview us, so I'll let them say their answers too
Yeah.
when we get to that point as well. But me personally, it's so Red Hot Chili Peppers. The things we're
Okay.
doing,
Yeah.
especially in the second LP,
I could hear that, man. You know.
so Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
And it's just like and the environment, like Rainbow Studios where we're recording, is so like 90s grunge-esque aesthetic. It's super put together. Our engineer Tim Zick is awesome. 311, 311,
Yes.
their
Yes.
first album was recorded there.
Oh, that's right. I forgot
Yeah,
it. Okay, that's where they were.
yeah, that was where their first album was recorded. It's a great space. We had so much fun this weekend. So it's super like influenced on those 90s bands. Like as you
And
just mentioned, that's kind of where we're all, because Aiden, our drummer, is a Chili Peppers fanatic.
awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
could definitely hear that, man, too. That you guys, you're doing well, man. Are you planning yourself to do more solo stuff like a new EP or
yeah, I have some stuff. I was talking with Johnny about this. We write some stuff. Everyone writes stuff in the band, which is another thing I really love. We all
yeah,
have our own songs and we all have our own styles of music, but we all respect each other's as well.
right.
Um, and I think that's what gives us so much versatility. But I have some stuff that I write. Some stuff that I write is very folk and like beautiful textured kind of stuff,
Yeah,
and it
for
just
sure.
doesn't fit with Pro Parade. That's not Pro Parade at all. So
Yeah,
yeah, I am hoping to release sort of like an EP of just like some songs I've written over the course of like this past year, just things that I've been needing to say that I can't really say in Pro Parade songs. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Um, and I think it's possible because yeah, I would hope so.
well, that's good, man. Maybe I've definitely got some songs that don't fit for me personally as an artist. I'd love to pass a couple of things by you and see what if you wanted to write to it or whatever, that'd be awesome.
Beautiful. That'd be wonderful.
I'm dying for people to collaborate with me because it's like I write so much music, but it doesn't fit necessarily with what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
maybe it'll fit with somebody else. So,
Mm.
and that'd be awesome. Um, let's see what else. What else was I going to get to here? So you're not gonna. Well, it's so you're not gonna. You've established you're not going to sue me over the
Mm-mm. No shot.
over
I don't.
any of
I
the
like I
cool.
said, I don't think I have the jurisdiction to
Uh,
even do it in an alternate universe where I would want to.
yeah, you never know, right? It was such a dumb thing, but I was so horrified. Like I felt so stupid. I mean, no offense, but asking like a high school or just out of high school guy, hey, can I use your chord progression that I heard on this? But it's like to me, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, here that again. It's funny you say that because that was kind of like my introduction to you because I had
Yeah.
heard about you before. My
Hmm.
dad had kind of told me your story of how you were like a super jock in high
Yeah.
school,
Yep.
and then you sort of had some complications with health, and then turned to music and
Yeah.
recording. And I've listened to your works, and I adore them. And so that was sort of my first introduction to you, even though it wasn't like a direct communication. I was
Right.
like, that I could just tell this dude is so genuine because who would think to just like ask in some weird like grapevine if this is okay, because I was like an independent artist,
Yeah,
like anyone could steal from me and I basically couldn't do anything. Like that's and which is crazy to say as artists that don't really have the backing of a label or any of that
right.
stupid stuff.
I
Because
created my own label, man.
yeah,
I've been waiting for a label to scoop me up for years, and yeah, I've
yeah,
had a lot of people promise me a lot of things and do, but nothing ever materialized. So I was just like, you know what?
yeah,
My wife, my wife opened up this label for me, and so we started Shoeline Records, and it's just a studio in my house.
mhm,
I have all the enough gear to get by to make good, decent recordings.
yeah,
Am I spending a bunch of money at a big studio? No, but I mean, I turn enough. If you turn enough heads with what you're doing, and I'm
yeah,
not foolish to think like Island Records or somebody or Sub Pop is coming in there. That's my dream, right? Like,
mhm,
what if Sub Pop or somebody heard my album? They're like, man, this is cool. I dig this, but it's not really necessary now. Like, we're in a different
yeah,
world, aren't we? Like,
yeah.
everyone can make an album in their basement or in their bedroom. I mean, hence
That's yeah.
bedroom rock, and it's so good, man, so
I mean,
good.
that's what we did for the first album. We were in my drummer's
Yeah,
basement. And it was
yep,
funny because we were like looking and he was micing all the drums and it was just like these expensive mics everywhere. And Rainbow has been
yeah,
treating us so well, especially with price, because most of our price is coming from what we won from Battle of the Bands of the Keg.
right on.
Um, and they're working with us to make sure that we have enough money and they're treating us so well. And it's like we get to use this like crazy gear and like we don't have to worry about like price. It's just they create such a good environment and business model that like it truly prioritizes music and like
They're
the
so
artists
good,
and just
man. They're
making
so good. Yeah.
and yeah, so it's like we see it and it's like this crazy overhead mic. It's like for like thousands of dollars. And we were like, when we recorded, it was on a ceiling fan. We put
Right.
like a really crappy like tube mic, like wrapped the cord around the ceiling fan and balanced it so it wouldn't move. And that was
Yeah.
the summer of this humid room in a basement because we couldn't turn on the ceiling fan because the drum
Right.
overhead mic was like on the ceiling fan. So yeah,
Yeah.
like we did it. We made our first album with it, and we just wanted the experience of recording this one in an actual studio, and we had the money come to us. We were like, might as well. So
So you guys, well, it is interesting what you say about you don't need that much. When I was in high school, or just out of, I don't even know if your dad and them knew. That's so weird. Knew how into music. I mean, they knew how into music I was, but like how serious I was about starting a band. I'd say it all the time.
mm-hmm,
But we would actually like play our keyboards. We'd plug into like the best stereo that our dads had, and
mm-hmm,
we'd play through that, and we'd plug a microphone into it, and we would record out of literal 8-track recorders.
yeah,
And that was like the early iterations. I mean, you don't need a lot, and that's what I want to tell
mm-hmm.
people who are listening now, who are aspiring musicians. I do feel that the music business is getting saturated to the point where maybe not everyone should, but I don't want to say that, because if people feel that their art is necessary, they want to get it. Who am I to kick that down? But it does make it,
I do, yeah.
yeah, the cream rises to the top, though. I mean, look at you guys. You guys won the battle of the bands. You guys beat some good bands. I mean, did they give you did you get like a championship belt or like a big trophy or anything to come
No, we
with?
just got a fat envelope of
There you
cash. That's
go.
what we got.
That's all you need,
We'll
right?
take it. But we will say on the giant like sign that says the Gray's Keg, the keg,
Yeah.
they started last year that they want the band to write their names and winner of 2023. So we're like the
Awesome.
first thing and right now the only thing. I
Yeah.
think we're planning on returning next year, seeing if we can snag it again. But yeah, no, I think I think, like you said, it's interesting because I don't, yeah, again, I don't want to say that anyone's art shouldn't be exposed because if you do feel like you have some things to say, you should have every right to do so.
Of course.
Um, and but I do believe that the saturation is real, but it's not something we need to worry about because, like you said, the cream rises to the top, and so
It
the
does,
people who
man. The Macho
really,
Man said it perfectly years ago.
yeah,
It still rings today, right? I
yeah,
mean,
you get there. If you're meant to be there, you'll be there. And I think that's our
yeah,
whole, well, we want it so bad. The band wants it so bad. Every single one of us want it so bad. And we want it for different reasons. My reason is I just want to see those guys' dreams come true. Because
yeah.
for me, it's like I'm super chill about my experience with life and where it heads me. I've been raised by my mother who is super like whatever is meant to be will be.
Right.
So although I want it more than anything, it's like if we're meant to get there, we will get there. We just
Yeah,
need to keep creating and keep grinding and keep doing what we're doing, and we will get there if we're meant to be there. So
absolutely. And so who were some of the bands that you guys went up against? I mean, do you mind saying? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
not to like put them because they were good too. I mean, you guys had a good lineup
Yeah.
going.
We have close relationships with the bands that we went. Alcavad was runner up.
Mhm.
Love Alcavad. They just recorded some stuff at Rainbow Studios. They're so lovely. They were one of the first bands that we like really Pearl Parade had a close connection to and played shows with them. We feel really safe with them and like mutual respect is there.
Yeah.
And and Siphon. It's like
Yep.
a really heavy metal. Love Siphon. We've played so many gigs with them. We love those guys. They came to our last gig with the Soap Girls at the Keg, and they were so much fun.
Right on.
Um, and yeah, no, they're incredible performers. And then Wave, incredible band out of Omaha.
Yeah.
They were there. They don't play too often much, which is a shame because they're incredible. But yeah, Wave, and I think they were called something, the Anonymous Crows. I think is what it was, and I think they're kind of like a sort of a dad rock band out of a small town in Nebraska. They were incredible. Shitface was awesome.
Yeah.
Shitface is
Cool.
another
Great
band.
name right off the bat,
Yeah,
right? But then
yeah,
they rock too.
Shitface.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the previous lead singer was the singer for Shitfaced.
Hmm.
Previous lead singer from Alcavad. And then like Alcavad got a new lead singer. His name's Will, but he then started Shitfaced, and we love those guys. They were incredible. We haven't seen them since Battle of the Bands, but I had a super good time. They played some Beastie Boys,
Yeah.
and their set. It was just awesome. And that's really all I can remember at the moment. I think Audacion was another one that performed.
Audition.
Yeah, and they were really good too. I think I just Battle of the Bands is a huge turning point for not only us as a band, but like me as a person.
Yeah.
Because like as a person, I realized that there's this beautiful community in Nebraska and Lincoln and
Yeah.
surrounding areas of music and people who just want to rock and want to, just have fun and play music and respect each other's music and love each other's music, support each other. And then also just as a band, like when we got up there, the drive to like win just like completely changed our ideas and the way we go about performing. So now we were kind of in our shell for a
Yeah.
little bit, and I was kind of figuring out like how to be a front man because that's some journey within itself.
It is. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah, and like I'm blessed enough to have guys in this band that are honest with me. Like if I do something and it's stupid, like they will tell me, and
Yeah.
like I'm blessed enough to have that, and like we can have this mutual respect to be honest with one another. If something like does not work, then like we're gonna tell each other. And I think it's just kind of like when Battle of the Bands came, we just sort of found it like all in an instant. It was just so strange just seeing that crowd and everyone supporting it, just like unlocked something, and then we rose to the top. So I
Yeah.
think it just kind of, yeah, I think it just kind of changed the trajectory of the band and everything, and then it gave us the financial opportunities to do this next LP in a studio. And yeah, I think it was just a huge turning point. So
And you guys did it, man. You guys should have. I have these kid wrestling belts in here. I should I
mhm.
should have you guys, carry those into the room. Like that's what I would do, like I'm a big dork, but then like when I become when I become the front man, so to speak, you
Mm,
gotta have that bravado. You have to walk in. It's not that you're overly cocky because anyone who knows me, for instance, knows that that's not the case. But
yeah.
but then if I become the persona of who I am performing, my name isn't Kane Stevens in real life. I have another last name,
Mhm.
but it doesn't roll off the tongue. My real last name is Nungesser. Well, no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
hard. It's hard for people to type in Nungesser.
Yeah.
My
I mean,
middle
I couldn't
name
type
is
it. If you asked
Steven.
me, I could not type it. So,
Yeah, yeah. It's a weird German name. There's a lake named after us in Canada. Like
ooh,
that.
okay.
Yeah. Well, not after us personally, but
But like it's the same. Yeah.
like
It's the
family
same.
lineage. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's cool.
So I went with that, and then but I would definitely carry if I won Battle of the Bands, I'd carry the belt. If you're the title holder.
Yeah.
So
I
next year,
think
man, you guys got to come in with full belts on your shoulders.
no, I
Come in, you're ready to.
I think the thing about this band too is like um we are very I am the most like extroverted, like energetic person of the four
Right,
of us. I was talking to Johnny the other day and I was like, I feel like a jumping puppy and
right,
like
right.
a thing of three black cats. Like that's what it feels like a lot of the times. Um, but also sort of just that I think for me personally, it's like the persona I carry on stage, it's like it's a showman more than anything else, where my purpose is to give myself to the audience.
Yeah,
When I think I couldn't do that before because I was closed off to a lot of people. I think for a very long time I had this mask, and I had this super long sit down with Johnny one night after rehearsal, and we were sort of just breaking down some walls with things that had been kind of building tensions within the band.
yep,
And
it
it mainly
happens.
was just, yeah, I feel like for a while I had this like wall with people, and it made me like really insincere and like
Yeah,
just like not myself, and I was like making mistakes and being things and being kind of an asshole,
yeah,
like, and just like almost acting like I was apathetic when I wasn't, because that's not who I am. That's not who I
right,
was raised to be, but that's who I carried for so long. And that's kind of what I reference with like high school. Why I don't really like to think about it that often, because I hurt myself and I hurt a lot of people. But like it truly was just because I was afraid to be genuine.
right.
Um, and I think that's normal for a teenage boy. And I
Yeah,
and I think I had to get over kind of villainizing myself for a while and being too hard on myself about
it's
that.
hard to find out who you are, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
here I am, I'm 41 now, and I would say within the last, so many years, I finally found out who I really am, you know.
Yeah.
It takes a long time, and males reach maturity at such, and I'm not saying for everybody, for me it
Mm,
was probably a lot longer. I'm like a grown child, of course, but
yeah.
you reach a certain amount of maturity where you find yourself. All right, so we were talking about kind of the transformation of ourselves, and how we become more mature. I would, if you ask my wife, I would say I probably haven't become more mature, but I mean, I at least appear to be a grown man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so with that being said, I did want to tell you a story. I don't know how much time you have, but your dad worked at Blockbuster when we were kids, which
Yeah,
was
I
big
remember
time.
that.
Like for us, it was like the epitome of awesome because I mean, who didn't want to know? He was like working what we wanted to do. And I can remember I'm sure you've seen the movie Can't Hardly Wait, right?
Mm-mm. I
Oh,
have
you
not.
haven't? Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, here's your homework for you after we get up. At some point, you need to watch Can't Hardly Wait, and it's such an amazing movie. It's a comedy with it's got Seth Green and who else? Man, there's so many great people. Jennifer Love Hewitt's in it.
Okay.
But when that movie came out, I can remember being like, man, I can't wait to watch this. And we were supposed to hang out with your dad one night, and we are like, okay, we Air Park, if you know what it is. We grew up in Air Park, Arnold Heights,
Yeah.
and I can remember going over there, and your dad was being a little bit coy with us, like maybe he wasn't going to hang out with us after all. We couldn't
Mm.
figure it out, couldn't figure it out. Some time had passed by, I went and tried to peep through the windows, see what's up, what's going on.
Yeah.
Just so happens he and your mom at the time were watching the movie Can't Hardly Wait. And I was bummed out when I found out about that. Not only because he wasn't hanging out with us, but because I wanted to watch that movie and I wanted to watch it with him. And so
Yeah.
I like for the longest time like tried to hold out and not watch the movie in spite of of what they
That's
had
so
done.
funny.
It's so stupid, man. It's like but
It's
every
just
time I watch it now, I think about them. Like, I mean, they're not in the movie, but I think about your parents and the fact that, damn it, I wanted to watch the movie with your dad and, and
it's
your
just
mom wanted.
so funny to hear these things, like, because it's just like I'm getting into the point of life where I realize my parents are people, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Oh yeah, they are.
Like they're
Believe it or
humans.
not.
Like they're
Yeah,
humans, obviously, because when your teenage years up to your teenage years, like they're your parents.
yeah,
Um, but once you sort of like stem to adulthood and you're kind of out of their reins, and it's just really interesting because like then you have to work more
Right.
to maintain and foster that connection.
Yeah.
And when you do that, um it's like you sort of get to know them. It's almost like you're getting to know strangers in a
Yeah.
strange way, like strangers that you like feel like a soulmate tie with almost. That's kind of
Right.
what it's been like, kind of. And when I hear these stories, it's like, oh my God, I've done that before. I flaked on friends because I was
Yeah.
hanging out with a girlfriend, and my dad did too, apparently. Like, you get this pretty girl in high school and you're like, oh, this is everything, I got to do this all the time. And so it's
Exactly.
funny, and it's so funny, especially when like now so big of hypocrites to give me like crap for that when my dad was doing the same thing.
Now
That's
you
so
got the dirt
funny.
on him. You're like,
I know.
no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm
but
not
i
listening.
but it's funny because you only hear those things where you get dirt when you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't need it
Exactly.
anymore. Like, I'm 19. When my parents are really good with, like, when you're 19, you are your person.
Yeah.
Like, they're there to care for you. And not only that, but when you are 19, they will still care for you, like, as their child. Like, I'm still living at home. I
Yeah.
lived in the dorms and I was like, this is awful, and it's too much money because they don't, I'm paying for my own college. So it's like, and they still give me housing and pay for my phone and stuff. So it's like I don't know, they're just always been really good with, like, they realize they give you that freedom that a 19-year-old should have, but they still like care
Well,
because
you guys have like the perfect family, man. In a strange world, I'm kind of waiting for them to ask me to live with you guys. You know what I mean? Like,
I have a
like
lot of
I want to
friends.
come stay
Yeah.
with them. Like, I clean, I cook, I do all this stuff. Like, I want to be a room. You guys, like, I live vicariously through you guys, and
Mm.
I sometimes pull the curtains back, or pull the blinds down, and I peek in and I see what you guys are doing on Facebook, and you
Yeah, my
guys seem like
mom
yeah, your
clinically
mom.
is clinically on Facebook, I tell her. Yeah.
But to me, it's great because as one of their friends from the past, I love seeing that stuff. And you guys are a very happy family. It looks like you have
Yeah.
super talented, super loving, and happy brothers and sisters. And
Mhm.
man, you guys are you're very fortunate in that respect. I mean, I'm just saying what I see. I mean, maybe you know
That is it.
yeah,
And
maybe
I'm
it's
proud to
cigarette
say it.
butts and ashtrays being thrown at each other but
No.
I doubt it with you
Yeah.
guys.
No, yeah, truly. And I do have this conversation with people a lot too, because a lot of my friends, we grew up my house being a safe place for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Because my parents are just like, they're so loving
yeah,
and
they are.
understanding and caring, and they do it in their own ways. So when you come here, it's like any way you want to be loved or cared for,
Right.
someone's got you covered. Because we're all extremely different people too. Like, all, if you look at my siblings, Kaylee is super just like academic, put together, like business kind of thing. I'm my own thing, kind of screwing around, doing music, making art, going to this like crazy college. And my sister is like witch crystals, kind of like universe
Right on. Yeah.
energy. Yeah. And then my brother's straight up sports,
Yeah.
like super athletic, as tall as me. He's going into freshman year and he's as tall as me. Is
Man.
super with basketball. And so, yeah, and we're all extremely, my dad, huge nerd. Nothing's changed about that. I can guarantee. Yeah, I can tell you straight up, nothing's changed about that.
We're
And then
all
my
nerds. Trust me, our group of people were like, I was always tied with like cool guys here and cool guys there. But I mean, I always
yeah,
associated as I'm a dork. And so the people around me are probably dorks too, but we were probably thought we were cool
yeah.
together.
Let's see. You got Mike and Mark are different people, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Mike Cooper was in
Yeah.
there. Mark Allman. These are guys. Shout out to those guys. These were our best
Yeah.
friends, and we were all kind of different. Mike Cooper was. He was in like bands and stuff back then. He kind of was doing the stuff that I kind of looked from a side and wanted to be in, but I was just
Yeah.
locked into sports. I was lucky to be good at sports like my entire childhood for whatever reason.
Yeah, and it's kind of there's a funny story that I think my dad was with Mike and Mark, and we were
Mhm.
talking about this going up. We were going Pawnee Lake, I think it was.
Right?
My dad would like go up there all the time, and we were
Yeah.
driving past it because we were going to Seward, just 4th of July. We're going to Seward's like fair, and
Hmm.
it was just my mom and dad and I, because I had no plans, and I love hanging out with my parents. So it's like, um, we were going up there. He's telling me a story. It was at Branched Oak, and I don't remember if it was Mike or Mark, but Dad said that Mike or Mark wasn't very easily excitable. Like
Right.
they don't really get, I don't know which one it was, but they saw like a green fireball in the sky, which is like a
Yeah.
real thing. Like it's like
Yeah.
just like a copper meteor and like it makes the flames green. And he was like jumping out of his seat in the car. He was like, oh my God, guys, I saw this. And then they go to the lake and it's like in the middle of night and it's super foggy. And dad said that like you could see the stars like so vividly. Like it was like a really weird night. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they hear like what my dad describes as like an evil witch's laugh, but like really slowed down.
Right.
And like I don't remember who it was, but Mike or Mark were like, let's get out of here. I don't know what that was. That was so weird. But like that's my dad's only like paranormal
Right.
experience he talks about. It's just so funny because like uh I hear about these guys and dad does talk about you guys a lot. Like he does mention like you and Mike and Mark, and he mentions them so often. He even my mom and obviously a Lynn and I'm blanking on her name right now. I haven't seen her in so long. She was like my mom and my aunt's best friend. I
Was it
don't remember.
Jen? Was it Jen
Jen.
Scott?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was Jen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm totally
See, your
blanking on her
mom and
name.
Jen were like, they were like tied to the group, It was like
Hmm.
we were the clique, like we had
Yeah.
lockers next to each other. We had the whole thing going. So like we would go hang out at Jen's house and act a fool,
Yeah.
do all sorts of ridiculous stuff.
You guys would go to lunch
Yeah,
or
we'd go to
whatever.
lunch
Yeah.
together. Man,
Yeah. I know,
I
isn't yeah.
yeah, it was
Isn't this
such a good time.
crazy? Isn't this
Yeah.
crazy? Like I hear these things as stories that are your experiences. Like it's
Yeah.
so crazy. Like, yeah.
But I identify like with how you do though. Like I had fond memories of high school, but most of
Mhm.
it was away from high school. I actually hated high school.
Yeah.
I hated the dynamics of it. I hated so many things about it. And not I love school. Like I love
Yeah.
learning. I love the experience, but I don't know. I don't really
Yeah.
have like a fond memories of actual high school, except for like sports and outside of it. You know what I mean?
Which is it's interesting to kind of tie that in with like archetypes because you had a different high school experience than I did. I was
Yeah.
super involved with music and theater. I chose the path that you had to choose away from to do
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah, for sure.
Um and like it was the same thing. Like although everyone feels so divided in high school, I think everyone has this common thing of like this place kind of sucks. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the purpose of it. Like that's kind of the purpose of that stage in your life is you're figuring out what your interests are and I think that's also why public school is so important.
Of course,
You're
I agree.
exposed to so many people, and it's just like so easy to like get wrapped up in so many things. And you're supposed to be confused. I think I'm still 19 years old. I still have no clue what's going on. And, I have maybe a little bit more than I did in high school, but I feel like that's kind of the purpose.
Yeah.
You're just kind of confused all the time. And you're just like, what am I doing? In
Look at
any
us. I
aspect.
mean, we went to Lincoln High. I mean, Lincoln High
Yeah.
is a cool school and a melting pot of the whole city.
Hmm.
And we were fortunate to have done that. And that not taking away from the other high schools have the same
Oh
experience.
yeah, yeah.
But
But
Lincoln High is
Lincoln,
just so strangely different. It's
yes.
like within the United Nations of high schools. Like, I mean,
No, yeah, it's still
there.
that way today. It's
Yeah.
however many years later, it's still that way today. That's how I look at Lincoln High, and I think North Star High School is like super. It's like I see North Lincoln as the weirdest thing ever because it's like because I
Right.
live way north. We're like if you go that way, I'm like towards the back of my house. If you go further back, like you hit the country in like 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, like so we're super out there. And like I went to Cooser and SCO and North Star, which are relatively new schools.
Mhm.
And like the only way I can describe them is like the most like diverse yet white schools you have ever
Right.
been to in your life. But I was still like exposed to like, but I did feel a shift when I think back, like because I lived in Capitol Beach, like the slums of Capitol Beach when I was like
Mhm.
starting. Because obviously it was my grandma's old house, and my dad and my mom lived there when they moved out of the apartment at when they had me,
Yeah.
because they lived in the apartment with Kaylee for a little bit. Um, so I was like exposed to sort of like a more diverse neighborhood and more like more characters and such like that. And then when I moved out to North Lincoln, it was kind of like, oh, this feels like suburbia. It was
Right.
kind of like a weird awakening. It was like like my neighborhood feels like suburbia,
Yeah.
super quiet, like nuclear families. I mean, like, and like you
People
said,
mowing
like,
lawns at the same time.
yeah,
You know,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah, for
you
sure.
know, well, yeah, like I just mowed the lawn last week, and Steve, my neighbor, was out there too, like, hey, and
Yeah,
I have recently been making so many jokes that I'm like slowly becoming a dad. I adore mowing the lawn. I'm wearing hats every day,
yeah,
and like
exactly.
I dress like a dad, and like it's like I'm just
Yeah.
slowly morphing into that. But
You'll
it's
be
like,
playing Dad Rock in no time, man. You
man,
know,
we basically are playing dad rock. I
yeah,
love dad rock,
Dad
American
Rock.
football. I'm all over American football, man.
You'll
I'm
morph to yacht rock pretty soon. You know, where
yeah, yeah.
you'll be wearing
I
penny loafers and
I was literally wearing these jeans the other day that someone made a joke to me that they look like penny loafers, but it's just,
yeah,
yeah, it's just, it was kind of like a weird transition that I don't really think about. But yeah, it just like was suburbia all of a
yeah,
sudden. And this house was built for us. We built in a new neighborhood out in the north, we were populating the place as it was getting newly populated, and yeah, so it's just like suburbia out here. And so I think it's just kind of like, I don't know, going from such like a colorful place to sort of like just Stark was kind of a rude awakening
Well, I
for
don't need
me.
much to survive if I move over. You know, what I figure is what I'm going to do is if I move into you guys' house, my wife's going to drop me off in like a big basket. It's going to have to be a really
Mm,
big basket, you know, like you do with
yeah.
like a baby in the
Yeah,
movie.
huddled like a baby.
And
You'll be
she's going
like
to
in
ring
like
the
a
doorbell and I'm going to sit
you
there, you
run
know,
away.
and I'm going to wait for you guys. And then they're going to like hug me and take me in, you know, like I could
Yeah,
just be in
I'll
like a
answer the I'll
doghouse.
answer the door and I'll be like, Dad, Kane's here. Yeah, we've been
But he
expecting this
like eats
guy.
me out of house and home and everything, you know. I like they won't want me there for too long, you know. But I
No, it's
am
just,
extremely clean, so that helps. Like if someone's gonna drop me
you're
off,
better than my brother. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, you're better than my brother. He has the basement, which is what I had when I was in high school. So
yeah,
he's got a pit down there. He's
man,
got that, and which is perfect for where he's going. He's about to go into high school. So that's
yeah,
where it's. But when I came back, I was still in the basement, and I was like,
yeah,
Mom, I need to go upstairs. I need to have sunlight. I was like,
yeah,
I'm getting so depressed. Like
yeah.
as you
It
like get
is.
out of teenage years, sunlight's important to you. You're
Yeah,
like starting to realize like there's little things you can do for your mental health besides being like just a sad teenager all the time.
right.
Like, sun is a huge thing. So I was like, I need a bigger room and I need sunlight. I got a lot of
And
sunlight up here.
not
So
everybody's the glitter glam, you know, vampire from Twilight. You know, like
yeah, I
you got to
was.
come
That's
out.
that's
Yeah.
literally who I was in high school. I swear.
Oh man. Well, you know, I can't wait until you guys bring me into the fold and I can become a true part of the family. But until then, you know, I'll have to spend my time, you know, BSing with you on a podcast. And, you know, you know what, we have so much time left. You know, I do like to ask people ridiculous questions. That's kind of
Please do. It's my favorite type
so
of questions.
you know, I'm not gonna ask anything too raunchy, but I have some prepared for you that yeah,
Dude,
I'm
go
very
crazy. If
interested.
you
This
want to
is
go
stuff that
raunchy, go
could change
raunchy.
the world. Yeah. All right.
Go crazy. I'm telling you right
Um,
now.
Nothing too ridiculous. Well, it is ridiculous. Okay, so first question right off the bat, I want to ask you: do you think robots are taking over the planet one Google search at a time?
Okay, so the thing about which this is actually really funny. I was just thinking about this. So the new Mission Impossible movie,
Yeah.
apparently the villain is a rogue AI.
Mm,
Um, and that makes me super interested, and it's like super timely that they would write that now, and I want to
yeah,
see it like
exactly.
strictly because of that, like the villain being an AI. Like
Right.
that's like the first movie I've seen. I mean, there were some movies back in the day, like Space Odyssey and such like that, where like they had this AI, but like they're doing it in a sense of like if you would see it back then when Space Odyssey was released, we'd be like, this is kind of, if you would see it now, you'd be like, oh, like, yeah, that's kind of cheesy. But
Yeah.
like now, in the sense of like the systems we have working today, and I am in the emerging media arts program in college, so we use a lot of AI in our projects. They're super like encouraging about it to use it within school and projects and explore its capabilities as artists. So it's like seeing the things that are happening, it's not too far off. And it
It's
makes
not.
me,
It's really strange. Have you
yeah,
tried some of the chat
yeah, dude.
AIs and stuff? Like I actually
I've
just
tried everything because that's
yeah,
what you
I
do.
have
And my
too.
dad's
I
obsessed
actually
with it.
had one write a bridge for me when I couldn't figure it out the other day.
Yeah. And my dad's
I put in my
obsessed with it too.
progressions, it finished this bridge and it was perfect. I was like, man, I'm using that. I don't care. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it was perfect for the song I was writing.
And it's interesting. My dad's obsessed with it. He loves exploring it too. And
Yeah.
it's like I remember one of the first pieces of merch that Pro Parade had, we used like an AI generated art.
Right.
And like after that happened, Johnny was like, I never want to use AI art again. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like a weird thing of like, and with me, I had no issue with it, but Johnny had an issue with it. So
Yeah.
like it kind of like woke me up. Like I was like, okay, because I had been surrounded by my dad and my schoolmates who loved AI. So
Yeah.
like then I hear these perspectives of people who are scared of it, and I'm like, okay, interesting. And I kind of have found myself in the middle of the fence. So
Right.
do I think that it has the capability to
Yeah.
take over the world one Google search at a time? Absolutely. And does that scare the absolute living crap out of me? Yes.
Yeah.
But um I think we're a little bit I think we're far away enough from that as of now, where it
I
shouldn't
think
be
so
anything we have to
too.
worry about too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Although,
it can
they
happen.
are warning that, there's people warning the government right now that we're already too late. It's like we're watching a movie happen, but it's like our real life,
Well,
which
at that point it's like can't stop it. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we do.
I used AI art for my last single. My last single
Mm,
was Concrete Heart,
yeah.
and I did a bunch, and I was just like, I don't want to hire an artist. I'm not a good person to draw. I can do photography. I mean, there's so many ways to do album, but I was just like, make me something that I like, a Concrete Heart, and I'll mix two of them together.
Yeah.
And it did the perfect thing. And it's like it's not copyrighted. It's not there's nothing out there that someone's gonna be like, oh, you stole it from me. So
Yeah.
I would say I'm okay with it. But my next question is then they kind of go along those lines. It would be, do you think our country's run by lizard people from another planet? And
I would love to think so.
yeah,
That'd be so cool. Like I know
I think
people would
like
be like super
reptilians, right?
terrified. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that'd be like super terrifying for a lot of people. But like if Joe Biden came out tomorrow on like
I'm
a
positive he
conference
is, like
and
just
was
leave the
like,
politics aside. I'm positive
yeah,
it's a mask. Have you seen that stuff on TikTok where they compare like old Biden and Biden now? It looks like
I
a lifeless mask.
this is also another thing. I'm not on TikTok anymore, but apparently that's irrelevant because every single social media platform is another. Like
Yeah,
I have Instagram. Now it's Twitter too, because that weird thread thing they got going on. That's why
yeah.
Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are gonna fight.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's so
Celebrity death
stupid.
match, man. It's what
I
we're
know.
dying for.
And did you hear that? Like Italy, like Rome contacted them to be like, you should fight in the Colosseum.
Dude, that
What?
would be fantastic. But
That's
but
what
they're
if
both robots, so it's like
I
it's all
know.
coming together. They're
Or
both
lizard people. I feel like
yeah,
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg are more likely to be lizard people
yeah.
than like government. Because I
Mark
mean, if
Zuckerberg has dead eyes. Like you look at him,
yeah,
he has a serial killer's eyes.
I
Like
mean, at this point, like billionaires and the government are the same thing.
I
So it's like,
exactly.
yeah. So it's like, yeah, but I think, and people might be like, don't joke about this. But like me personally, I
Yeah,
would love it. I think that would be a kick. I'd be like, all these people that are like so diehard about the government, which is important
yeah, of
because your
course.
voice matters and the government matters. It's what's, controlling everyone. But at the same time, it's like, that'd be so funny because
It
it's
would
just
be
like
crazy.
everyone who takes it
It would
seriously
answer
just
so many
like,
questions. Like, why do they do this stupid crap all the time? And it's
yeah,
like, man, now it makes sense. They're
they
lizard.
don't they don't understand how humans work because like when
Yeah,
we think about it and they do something we're like what in your right mind. And I'm saying this about Trump, I'm saying this about Biden, I'm saying this about any politician. I'm not leading any which way. Any politician, they've done something and I've been like, what in your mind said that was okay? That
right.
would be the explanation because you're a lizard,
Absolutely.
you're not a human.
They're not. This
So
is
yeah,
crazy.
that's why you don't have a right mind to do it because you're not a human. So yes, that'd be my answer to that. I would love for it.
Here's a music question for you, and this is something that I think that I can tell exactly about a person by their
Yeah,
answer to this. Okay, John, Paul, George, or Ringo.
George,
Guy, George.
George,
Yeah,
George, and Johnny would slash my throat anytime I would say that because he's diehard Paul. Because you
yeah.
can't, I mean, you can't deny Paul. I mean, he's like one of the
I
master
am too.
songwriters.
I'm Paul as well.
Yeah,
I love Paul so much. It's not
yeah,
just because they all are the most talented people of all time. I mean,
yeah.
Ringo too. People don't give him enough credit, but
No, no, no.
they
Yeah,
are so unbelievable. But man, everybody's got a guy, and you can kind of think to yourselves why you have that guy. But I love asking people that because I mean the Beatles are obviously legitimately the best.
you
Incredible.
can't deny it, regardless of because I'm not the biggest fan of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Like it's not my music really,
Yeah,
but
for
like
sure.
I can't deny it. It's like Taylor Swift. Like
right.
I'm not like too big on Taylor Swift, but you can't deny that she's done her work and like
Right.
she's in
People who
there.
do that are
Yeah.
jerk. They're jealous or they're weird.
Yeah.
Like you got to admit the body of work is
Yeah.
pretty
You
damn
don't have
good.
to be a Swifty. You don't
Yeah,
have to be a Swifty to admit that she like is a good musician. She wouldn't have made it
exactly.
that far if she isn't. But like the thing about the Beatles is like Ringo just holds it down. Like
Yep.
Ringo is the biggest epitome of like knowing your place, like in a band and servicing the song and not yourself.
He's the
Um,
timekeeper. He lays the beat
yeah,
down so nicely and so perfectly. And people don't give him, people are like, oh, like people, rock people, for example, will
yeah,
say, oh, Ringo played such easy things. But that's what a good drummer does. They
yeah,
play the things that fit and that are perfect.
yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, well, like if you ask your favorite drummer, like Chad Smith or Taylor Hawkins, they're gonna
Yeah,
gush about Ringo.
of
So like,
course.
why should you hate Ringo?
Of
Like and
course.
Dave Grohl, like literally any of them. So and I think the thing with John and like the thing with keeping time, it is him because if you're like, oh, the bass player, there's no bass player
Yeah.
in the Beatles. It's either Paul or George or John, and
Yeah.
even, they just all switch all the times. Like, what's the point? Like, there's no bass. Like, there's no bass player. And I think the thing with John is I think he had the like his artistic vision I admire,
Yeah, for
like his
sure.
his drive for art and free thinking I really do admire about John, but there are a lot of things about him I do not like. um as everyone,
Man,
John Lennon is the epitome of an imperfect human being.
yeah, for
um
sure.
yeah, and then Paul is just master songwriter. He's the
Yeah.
epitome of like a master songwriter. I don't even want to know the sheer amount of songs he's written in his lifetime.
Man, he's
Here,
just so unbelievable.
side
And like,
question:
yeah, go ahead.
you think he's replaced, or do you think he's real? Do you think this
Dude,
is a yeah? Do you
that,
think he
that
died?
blows me away that you said that. I watched that documentary. I think it was on Tubi, uh,
Yeah.
about, and it was like, I never once dawned on me like this is a real thing. But then this thing came on, and I watched it 3 times in a row. I was so blown
Mm-hmm.
away by it, and I was like, man, they're really connecting dots. And it's like I don't know what to
Who
believe anymore.
knows?
Like,
I mean,
is it fall? As they say, like, is it the fake Paul?
my thing is like, if it is, so what?
Yeah.
So
No, he did
what?
a hell of a job, didn't he? Like this
Yeah,
guy,
he did a great
this
job.
guy's
This
as
guy's
good as
still a great
anybody who would
musician.
ever come in. So yeah, I
He might
say
be
it's
better than the
possible.
Paul that died.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe old Paul really kind of sucked.
Yeah, maybe he was a
I mean,
terrible
I know
person.
that's like sacrilegious, but the new
Yeah.
Paul rocks. The new
I
Paul.
think with George, the thing I admire about him was he was the epitome of the guy who was in the back,
Yeah.
um, who just loved being in the band.
Right.
And then when the band left, it's almost like he flourished
Yeah, he
and he
did.
became his own. And I love his music and sort of his kind of reconnection to religion. I think it's
Yeah.
really admirable because I'm kind of like weirdly going through that right now. I'm trying to like figure out what's going
Right.
on. So I think I just have admired him, and also like another one of my past girlfriends put me on him. It was like
Yeah.
kind of how I got into classic rock was her, because before it was like 90s because of my dad, or pop because of my mom.
Yep.
So she kind of put me on like classic rock, and George was like her favorite.
Yeah.
So
He's
that
very
kind of,
thoughtful. You could tell he's a very thoughtful human being by his
yeah.
music that comes out. I mean, I don't, obviously you can't tell for sure, but man, his music's just screaming, man, this guy is just
Yeah.
such a
I mean,
mind.
everyone that's talked about him too on like documentaries and such, they say he was always a good guy.
And he
Like
can rip
it's
on guitar. Like people don't give him enough
yeah,
credit.
yeah,
When I watched Get Back, when Get Back came out on Disney Plus,
yeah,
that whole deal. I mean, I sat there and I watched it in a different way. I played my guitar to it, kind of like I like to sit down and play my guitar to this stuff like I'm with the band. And it was like there's a lot of practicing and things. And it was like, man, this guy had such an amazing way of playing both lead and rhythm. It
one
was
sec.
just
If you
so
can hear
beautiful, man.
me, you can please.
All right, so something strange just happened. It appears as if either the government is mad at us for talking about lizard people,
Oh,
and
for sure.
I think that that's got to be it. But if it's
Yeah.
not, I think it's really just Zoom bullying me into an $18 a month subscription service. So that's all right. We're just going to continue. We don't have much time here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Uh,
Dude, yeah, you can take up as much as you did. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
I
So
do have one more question for you, and this is very interesting to me because
mhm.
I'll tell you how awful I was after your answer. Worst thing you've ever done at the movies. What is the worst thing you've ever done? Have
At
you
the
ever done anything
movies,
bad at the movies? Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done anything bad at the movies.
Oh no.
I don't think
You're
I've ever
good
done
at the
anything.
movies?
I don't think I've ever done anything bad at the movies
Uh,
besides,
I
you
mean,
know,
you don't have to
but
tell me anything too
yeah,
terrible, you know.
but besides teenager
Yeah,
things,
teenage things. I
other
mean,
than
like
that,
we
I
used to
mean,
drill people with candy, you know. I remember
no, I never
time
done that. I
one
never
time
done
one
that.
time we threw so much candy at a guy that we hit the guy. There was a guy we were targeting, but we were hitting the guy behind him, and the
Oh,
guy behind him started saying something, and the guy got pissed and ended up dumping a drink on like the person he thought was doing it.
dude,
It was so wild. I'm
that's
like, that's
honestly,
how we enjoyed the movies, quote
I
unquote.
mean, as much as that's terrible, I would have laughed my ass off.
It was
So as much
unbelievable.
as that's terrible, yeah, I don't think I've ever done that. Well, whenever I've gone to a movie, it's been my family or a date.
Yeah.
So I just have never done anything. Because if I were to do something like that with my mom or my
Yeah.
dad there, oh, they give it to me.
We had the privilege of Starship Nine back then, you know, which was the $1.50
Mm,
movie theater,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so it
yeah,
was
yeah.
like we would go to a movie the same day, like 5 times in a row if we liked it.
Yeah, we can't do that because if I
Yeah,
were to do that, I'd pay $100.
yeah, exactly.
Literally.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous now. How
Yeah.
many times have you seen a movie? How many times? Like the most times you've seen the same movie while it was in theaters?
It was Jordan Peele's Nope. I love that movie
Yeah,
like
yeah,
4 times.
yeah.
I went one time with my friend Dominic. Um, and then I went again with my cousin Eli, my brother Quinn, and my dad. And then I went like 2 more times by myself. Because that
Nice.
movie is one of those where like there's a lot of like, Jordan Peele has a lot to say in his films. So
Yeah.
like that one specifically like really got to me because I also love I was talking to dad about this the same time he was talking about his story with Mike and Mark.
Hmm.
Um, I just love like I think quiet Midwest or quiet farm is like the perfect setting for a sci-fi movie.
It
There's
is.
nothing better
There's
than a
nothing.
sci-fi movie in like a quiet town
Yeah,
or like a farm.
yeah.
It's there's nothing better. Like
That's why
I
Children
will
of the
watch.
Corn is so great, right? Like when you watch
Yes.
the Corn movies, because it like
Signs.
hits home, man. It's like, ooh, like you've been by a. I can remember like maybe at Lover's Lane out there on a dirt road with some chicks that I was with, and I can remember
Uh,
necking and doing all sorts of stuff.
yeah.
I can remember this one time there was a person that came out of the woods with a flashlight, and I was terrified, bro. I was like,
Yeah.
this is totally the movie. I'm out of here.
Oh
I
my
like,
gosh. I got a crazy story for you.
yeah,
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
I was going on a walk with my old friend Brody Vesley. We were friends in high school. And I think I was going through something and I was like, let's just go on a walk. I just need to talk to someone. So we were going on this walk and it was like behind a neighborhood. I've never been to this park, but he had obviously been there. It was like next to a creek. But he was like, let's go off the trail. First
Yeah,
mistake. So we go off the trail, we kind of go down towards the creek. It's like in this like huge like crevice of rock formations, and we're kind of going around. We're talking. We're going, and there's like this big like slope that kind of like it's like a grassy knoll that goes down and then it goes up again. So
right.
we want to get to the other side because we're almost done, and we're gonna head to our buddy's, Nolan, our buddy's dad's house because he has a huge acreage out in Waverly or Raymond, I think. Um, and we were going down and then we get to the other half and we look back to where we were. There's like this pit bull, like
Oh
just like
no.
jacked pit bull, and he's
Yeah,
just like staring us down, and we're like who, why is there a pit bull out here? Like no
right.
one's out here, and it
Yeah,
has a collar. So we're like, who is here? As we're doing that, we're walking down, we're like we're at the bottom and we look up, which was like 10 times more terrified. We were at the bottom and we look up and we see the pit bull. So we're kind of walking there to get to this place where we see if we can climb up the other side.
right.
And as we were saying that, the pit bull's eyeing us, dude. We go and we see this leveled out field. There's a mattress. There's a guy sitting on
Oh
a
my
lawn
God.
chair with like a leash. He looks like like three pit bulls, like just like
Yeah,
eyeing us down, cigarette in his hand, and like he looks scary. And as soon as I look over to the other side of the creek, there's tents everywhere. So now I'm picking up, okay, this is where a lot of homeless people like are taking camp and living because
yeah,
it's really hard to reach there. So no like authorities can get over there. So he's just kind of eyeing us down. And this dude, Brody, my friend, he's such an idiot. This dude goes, how you doing? Like just out loud. So I was like, oh, dude,
yeah.
why? So like we do that and then he says nothing and I'm like, okay. And so Brody goes, and then we go up. He like waves at him, and then we climb up, and we're like going. And I'm kind of freaked out. I was like, that was weird. And I look behind, dude is following us with his like 4 pit bulls.
Oh
And
my
I go
gosh.
to Brody, I was like, Brody, he's following us. And Brody was like, no. I was like, dude, I swear on my mom's life, he's following us. And he looks back and he's like, dude, just keep walking, keep walking. He follows us and he's like picking up pace. So Brody and I eventually are running
This is
like
my
from
worst nightmare.
yeah, from this dude, and we see these two women across the street. If somehow these two women are listening to this, I'm the guy who was with one of those two people that ran to you and told you to pretend to be our teachers
My
so we could
God.
like talk to you, like we were
Yeah.
running out. And yeah, we were like, oh my god, can you please like be our
What if
teachers?
this
And
guy was like a serial killer? If this
I
was
know,
a
I
brush with
know,
like a pit
like
bull killer, you know?
yeah, I know. And I mean, the hopeful, like not cynical part of me wants to be like, okay, this guy was just making sure that we wouldn't like call the authorities, so like we
Yeah,
would like get
yeah.
him busted, and he just wanted to scare us. But I don't know what he would have done, dude.
Nope, definitely
And
a serial killer. Definitely
yeah,
looking
I
person
know.
or
And like, so
something.
we ran out and he's like watching us. Like he's like just standing there, just like watching us walk down this main street. And then he like slowly goes back.
Oh
And it
my
was like that was terrifying. I like it
wow.
was crazy. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that was kind of my like horror movie moment. But yeah, just like I would love to live, and like my dad for a while wanted to live out in the country in like a huge open space. You know, so my dad, he just wants like quiet and like
Yeah.
isolation. But I was like, dude, if we did that and we saw an alien, and I would love that. And,
Right.
and,
Those,
and it's
and
funny
those
because like
skinwalkers are out there, bro. They're
no,
everywhere
for
right
real. And like my
now.
thing is like if I were an alien, because you see, like my dad reads these books, his favorite books are sci-fi books, and
Yeah. Mhm.
there's like accounts from farmers, and it's like farmers aren't smoking DMT or
No.
like doing this crazy stuff. So like, how are they seeing these things? So like, how
They
are
are
they
around
seeing?
all those crazy chemicals that they use. I
Which
mean,
is very true, but like
yeah,
to trip that vividly
yeah,
and
yeah, not
hard.
like that.
Yeah, and it's like if I were an alien, I
Yeah.
would choose a farmer who no one is gonna believe because they're alone in the middle of nowhere. So if I were an alien, I would choose to screw with a farmer.
This sounds
So
like a great horror movie or something, like farmers on LSD, like
yeah,
it seems and pretty soon they become like zombies and all this. Have you ever seen the movie Redneck Zombies before? You ever watch Trauma?
yes, I actually have seen
It's
Redneck Zombies
that's a
before.
legendary movie that I know we probably all watched back then and laughed. Your dad is
Yeah.
actually responsible for us going to the original Blair Witch Project at least three
Oh,
times.
my dad talks about that movie all the time. He
Yeah,
loves that
your
movie.
dad, we were all about it because it was like when it came out, it was like, oh yeah, this is real. They made it
Found
look
footage.
real, and it was like, so your dad had us convinced. And then of course, I swear the first day we went at least twice that day in a
That's
row.
so I want to do that. Like it's so
Yeah.
I hate money. Oh, I hate money
Oh, I
so
do
much.
too.
Like
I do.
seriously, it's everything's so expensive now, and it's like
Yeah.
and that's what I'm meaning. And like I dress, and I dress, and I like the music and stuff, and it's hard to be that because I don't want to be like that kid who's like, I was born in the wrong generation. But like
Yeah.
I would love to grow up in the '90s.
Man,
I love.
we had it so made. It was like the last great decade, man. It
I
was
know
like,
that's what it seems like to me. All my clothes that I wear, like everyone always telling me, "Oh, you look like you're like a high schooler in the '90s or something like that." And like I had the middle part for a while. Now I have the punk buzzed head. It's
yeah,
like, I have all that stuff. So it's like I do really, really romanticize and like obsess over the '90s, especially with like sci-fi culture too. Just like
yeah,
that kind of stuff, and making the music that it was just also made by humans.
yeah, of course.
Like the music was so raw, and the media was so raw, you could tell it was made by people and not machines, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It was
But
it
yeah,
was super raw, man. Well, hey, I could talk to you for hours, man, and I really hope we do this again sometime.
yeah,
Uh,
gladly.
I can't express to you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, and I
Dude,
hope we can
seriously.
do this again. But all good things must come to an end, and you know, I I will tell you that this is by far one of my favorite interviews that I've had, and I've interviewed some pretty crazy people just because of the story, the full circle thing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Noah, for
Yeah,
talking
thank you so
to
much
me.
for having me.
Is
Yeah,
there
I
anything that you
really.
want to plug here quickly before we end this conversation?
Yeah, I think I mean, we'll touch more about this when you get the band in here.
Mhm.
But yeah, we have an LP coming out. We'll probably have a release date when you interview us. We don't have
Yeah.
one as of now, but that's coming out. So just be on the lookout for that.
All right.
And yeah, that's really all I got for you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Yeah,
I'll
thank you
see
so
you
much for
when
having
my
me.
when my wife drops me off at the house and I become a part of the family. I'll see you then, right?
I'll be waiting for it.
Oh, we'll be doing the interview in your room. It'll be the new
Yeah,
studio. So,
there you go. Of
all right, man. Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate
course.
it. We'll
Yeah,
talk to
thank
you
you so
later.
much for having me. See
Yep,
ya.
see ya. Meeting.